Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a really a profoundly personal story. It's a journey of self-discovery identity.
And it's got this raw honesty that I think, might surprise you, but also really resonate.
Exactly. So our source material today, it's this powerful set of reflections from someone really grappling with their heritage, their place in the world.
Yeah, it gives this unique window into, well, the complexities of race, family, finding your own truth.
So our mission really is to unpack how this person's understanding of themselves evolved. Look at the societal forces shaping things.
And see how these very personal struggles connect to bigger questions,
Yep.
about belonging perception.
Let's get into it.
So to really get started, you have to understand the speaker's background. It's quite unique.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Born to a black African father and a white American mother. And they talk about spending so much of their life just trying to reconcile this divided heritage,
Mhm.
trying to square it with, the realities of race and nationality, these different tribal identities.
So central to everything.
Totally. So much so that they don't even call their book a memoir. It's a journey of discovery.
That's interesting. And the
Yeah.
family roots themselves are so different, right?
Oh, incredibly different. On the mother's side, you've got grandparents from,
Hmm.
well, the speaker jokes about it, metropolizes as Peru, Kansas, and El Dorado, Kansas,
Right.
describes them as mid-American as you could get, even says they look straight out of American Gothic.
Wow. Okay, so that's one side. What about the fathers?
Completely different world, his tribe. From a small Kenyan village right on the shores of Lake Victoria.
Yeah.
And what's really striking is how recent the contact was between the West and that village. The speaker's paternal grandfather. He was apparently the first or one of the first Africans, black men, to ever see and meet and have direct contact with a white person.
Wow, when was this?
As recently as 1895. Think about that generational gap in experience.
That's profound. And
All right.
somehow these widely divergent cultures, they came together.
They did in Hawaii, actually, during the civil rights movement, that sort of idealistic time.
Ah, okay.
The parents got caught up in that hopefulness, this idea of building a nation on community and equity and fairness.
But that didn't last.
Well, like the speaker says, those dreams, kind of like the parents' marriage itself, started fraying and eventually crumbling in the later 60s.
So that context, that backdrop, it sets the stage for his adolescence then.
Absolutely. And it was a really pivotal and difficult time for him. He describes himself becoming a very angry young man.
Why was that? What were the roots of that anger?
Well, several things. His father was absent. He was wrestling with this huge question. What does it mean exactly to be a black man in America?
Especially difficult, I imagine, in Hawaii back then.
Right. He felt isolated. There wasn't a large African-American community, no real father figures to guide him through that specific experience.
So how did he cope? How did he try to build an identity?
He says he sort of patched together an identity from media images, stereotypes, whatever he could find.
That sounds fragile.
It was, and this leads us to a really key moment, a turning point, a high school party.
Ah, the party incident.
Yeah. He and a black friend invited some white friends to a black party on an army base.
And what happened?
Well, the white friends, they were clearly uncomfortable being in the minority. They, tried to be cool, tapped their feet.
Yeah.
But after maybe half an hour, they wanted out, said they were tired.
And for the speaker?
It was like a lightning bolt,
Yep.
a really painful realization. He thought, what I have had to put up with every day of my life
Yeah.
is something that they find so objectionable that they can't even put up with it for a day.
Wow. That's heavy, just seeing their reaction.
It completely shifted things for him. He said that incident triggered a new map of the world.
A new map. What did that look like?
He described it as frightening in its simplicity, suffocating in its implications.
So what was this new map, this frightening idea?
Basically, the feeling that he was always playing on the white man's court by the white man's rules,
Okay.
that any kind of fair treatment wasn't something you could expect. It was more like the white person's choice to grant it. And even things like black humor or music, things that felt like an expression of identity, they could be a refuge, sure, but maybe also a trap.
A trap. How so?
Like allowing you to blow off steam, but ultimately keeping you contained within those rules. It's
Yeah.
this Maddening logic, he calls it.
Leading to what? A sense of being stuck?
Exactly, a feeling of powerlessness and your own defeat. And then the final irony,
Yeah.
if you actually resisted, if you lashed out at your captors,
Yeah.
then you get labeled paranoid, militant, violent, or worse.
Yeah. It's like a total double bind, no way to win.
Absolutely, a real catch-22. And this sent him on a quest, really.
How so?
Well, for the next few months, he tried to corroborate this nightmare vision, as he put it.
Okay.
He started secretly reading. Yeah, he'd go to the library, check out books by Baldwin, Ellison, Hughes, Richard Wright, Dubois. He'd close his door at night, tell his grandparents he had homework.
But really, he was immersing himself in these writers.
Exactly. Wrestling with their words, trying to find answers, or maybe confirmation of what he was feeling.
And did he find it? What did he take away from those authors?
He said he found the same anguish, the same doubt, a self-contempt mirrored in their work.
So not exactly uplifting then.
No. He felt that even the redemptive power of their art hadn't quite worked for them, that each author was ultimately forced into a kind of weary flight.
Flight where?
One to Africa, one to Europe, another deeper into Harlem. He saw them all as ending up exhausted, bitter men.
So it sounds like he was searching for solutions, or maybe solace, and instead just found more despair.
Pretty much. It seemed to confirm his worst fears until he picked up one book,
Which one was that?
the autobiography of Malcolm X. And that, he said, seemed to offer something different.
Different how? What grabbed him about Malcolm X?
It was the repeated acts of self-creation in Malcolm's story, the blunt poetry of his language, his absolute insistence on respect.
And the more controversial parts. The Blue-Eyed Devils.
He saw the apocalypse talk as sort of incidental, like religious baggage. The core message for him was about self-respect and transformation.
But there was a conflict there, too, wasn't there? Something that nagged at him?
Yes, a huge one, actually. There was this one line in the book where Malcolm wished the white blood in him could be expunged, wiped out.
Ah. And for someone of mixed heritage.
Exactly. It hit home.
Yeah.
Forced the speaker to ask himself, okay, if I follow this path, this call for self-respect, what am I severing? Am I cutting off my white family, that whole part of my heritage?
That's a profound dilemma. Embrace one side, reject the other, especially when it's family.
It really captures that tightrope, you know? Malcolm offered this powerful model for Black identity, but for someone like the speaker, it wasn't straightforward. It forced this internal negotiation.
Did he find any resolution in Malcolm's later views? You know, about potentially finding brotherhood with some white people through Islam?
He mentions that, yeah. Malcolm's later shift, discovering some whites might live beside him as brothers, it offered a glimmer, maybe, of distant hope.
Right.
But it felt very distant. He questioned, where were the people who would work towards this future and populate this new world? It felt abstract, far off.
So this intense internal debate,
Mm-hmm.
how did it play out when he talked to people in the real world?
Well, that's where things got even more complicated. He talks about this conversation on a basketball court.
Okay.
He was there with Malik, who was a follower of the Nation of Islam, and another player named Ray, and he brought up Malcolm X.
How'd they react?
The dismissal was pretty immediate, almost casual. Ray just jumped in, saying something like, you won't see me moving to no African jungle anytime soon, or some goddamn desert, and you won't see me stop eating no ribs either.
Huh. So not exactly embracing the ascetic lifestyle.
Not at all. And Ray also added, pretty bluntly, I don't need no books to tell me how to be black.
Wow. Okay. What about Malik, the follower?
Malik just had this silent, sort of faraway smile. And seeing their reactions, the speaker just decided to keep my own counsel, to disguise my feverish mood.
So even within the Black community, there wasn't one simple answer or reaction to these ideas.
Not at all. It really highlights how varied perspectives are, how personal these journeys become.
And then there was another incident, right?
Yeah.
With his grandparents.
Yeah, this one really hit close to home. It was a few weeks later. An argument one morning between his grandparents, Gramps, and Toot. That was his grandmother's nickname. Anyway, Toot didn't want to take the bus that day.
Why not?
She'd had an encounter with a panhandler the day before. She described him as very aggressive, asking for money, and it scared her. She thought he might hit her.
Okay, understandable.
But later, Gramps pulled the speaker aside and whispered the part Toot hadn't said out loud.
Which,
The panhandler was black, and Gramps said, "That's the real reason why she's bothered, and I just don't think that's right."
oh man, how did the speaker take that?
Like a punch. He said it felt like a fist in my stomach.
I can imagine.
He reflected on it, how much his grandparents loved him, sacrificed for him. But still, men who might easily have been my brothers could still inspire their rawest fears.
That's a tough realization. That love and fear can coexist like that, even with family you know loves you.
It really exposes those deep, often hidden societal fault lines, even within intimate relationships.
So all these experiences are piling up. The party, the books, the court, his grandparents.
And then comes another really crucial encounter with a man named Frank Marshall Davis.
Who was he?
Frank was described as a close friend of my maternal grandfather. He was a black man, originally from Kansas, like Gramps, who'd moved to Hawaii. And he was a fairly well-known poet.
Okay. And Frank offered a different perspective.
Oh, yeah. Unflinching is the word. He shared some powerful insights. He talked about growing up near Gramps back in Kansas.
Right.
And how back then he, Frank, would have had to step off the sidewalk to give him room, meaning step aside for white people.
Wow. Just dating the reality of that time.
Exactly. And he challenged Gramps' memory of something, too. Gramps remembered a black girl they hired to look after your mother as being like a regular part of the family.
And Frank.
Frank corrected that, said, no, she was a hired servant. Her mother did their laundry. It wasn't the rosy picture Gramps remembered. It was about the power dynamic.
He was cutting through the nostalgia, it sounds like.
Precisely. And his main point was stark. He told the speaker, essentially, your Gramps can't know me, not the way I know him. Meaning, Gramps, despite being a good person, could never truly understand the experience of humiliation, of desecration, that Frank, as a black man in that era, knew intimately. Gramps will never know what that feels like.
That's hard truth. Highlighting that gap in lived experience.
A fundamental gap. And he illustrated it further. He pointed out how the speaker could visit Frank's house, drink my whiskey, and fall asleep in that chair. Sleep like a baby.
Okay. Comfortable. Safe.
Right. But Frank said he could never do that in Gramps' house. Never truly relax. He always had to be vigilant for my own survival. Even with friends.
That constant vigilance. That's powerful.
And then Frank delivered the final, unsettling blow. He looked at the speaker and said, basically, your grandma's right to be scared.
Right to be scared. After Gramps just said it wasn't right.
Exactly. Frank said, she's at least as right as your grandpa is. She understands that black people have a reason to hate.
Whoa.
That's just how it is. You might as well get used to it.
Get used to the fact that there's a reason for black people to hate. That's
Well,
incredibly blunt.
Incredibly. And after leaving Frank's place, the speaker felt just utterly alone. He said it was like the earth shook under my feet.
I can only imagine. Frank just laid bare these really uncomfortable, conflicting truths without any sugarcoating.
Yeah, Frank's perspective is so powerful because it refuses easy answers. It insists on acknowledging these deeply uncomfortable realities shaped by history and power, even when it involves people you care about.
So, wrapping this up, this whole journey we followed, it's just such a potent example of how personal identity is tangled up with history, with society, with family.
Absolutely. It's a layer upon layer, this constant negotiation of where you fit, especially when you bridge different worlds. It really makes you think about the maps others might be navigating.
Yeah, those invisible burdens, those different realities. And this story, it really shines a light on how hard it is to truly grasp different perspectives, doesn't it?
Definitely. And it highlights those uncomfortable truths that often lie buried in our family histories, our cultural legacies, how we all sort of assemble our sense of self from these sometimes conflicting pieces.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. It's about this difficulty, maybe even the necessity, of holding contradictory truths at the same time.
Right. How love and fear, how progress and deep historical pain can actually exist side by side within one family, like we saw here, or even within a whole nation.
So the question to leave you with is, what does it mean for us to really acknowledge these uncomfortable, complex realities? Could facing them, unsettling as they are, be a step towards a deeper kind of understanding, even if it's not a simpler one?